and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a short story, because I write mostly fiction, but I'm going to read some poetry after that.
Of course, that's my phone.
So in the true Eastern European style, this short story is from a book I wrote a year and a half ago, of linked stories, and it's called a fictional autobiography. It's called September 9th. I lie in my room, not speaking, not moving. The window is open. The birds are outside. I hear them. I stare at the wall across the room. It is white and it is breathing, moving. I know this can't be real, I'm sure of it, but I can't snap out of it. I try and I can't, and I don't think I want to anymore. I lay the wrong way across the bed, perpendicular. My knees are bent, my feet rest on the wooden floor. The wood is cool on my soles when there are birds outside. Birds, I hear them. It's 7:03, I notice. They chirp. I don't know how long I've been lying here. I am high. The walls keep breathing with me, and slowly I begin to feel enlightened. Time is passing. It's 7:08 now. I think about turning my head to look out of the window, but then I don't. The light in the room is changing. I can feel the twilight and the temperature. I realize my cell phone is ringing somewhere. I don't really want to look for it, but I find it. It's in my back pocket. My mother, her picture flashes on the tiny screen and she's grinning wildly. I'm reluctant to pick it up. I notice it's 7:19. I also notice the date. Suddenly, I feel very observant and ready to answer the phone, so I do it. Privyet, I manage. A single sigh and then silence. He's dead, she says. Time passes. When we last saw my grandfather, my mother and I, we were together. He was taking us to the train station in his Volga. He loved that car. He drove us through the rural back roads when we hit the largest hills, he always turned off the engine on the down slopes. The three of us watched and held our breaths, listening to the unfamiliar silence at high speeds as gravity pulled the weight of the Volga and all of us downhill. It felt like what I imagined flying would. He laughed as he checked the traffic in the rearview mirror, then restarted the car just as the road began to plateau. He checked the mirror often, every 10 or 15 seconds. He was wearing his gray suit. It was the only one he had. They will bury him in it. He was not the kind of man who needed more than one suit because he seldom had any occasion to wear it, only if he was going out amongst people like the train station. Most days he spent working on his car or digging potatoes in the backyard. We waited for the train together, car 3, seat 24 and 25. I stood next to him on the narrow platform that sat between two tracks. My mother stood a little way away from us, surrounded by brown suitcases, staring out into Maniki Bazaar across the street, watching strangers haggle and shop. She had to save up for a whole year just to afford a small 2-week trip to Russia for the two of us every summer. She never took sick days during the year to save her full 2 weeks for these trips. A whistle sounded faintly, and we all strained our eyes to watch the nose of the train grow from a tiny speck in the distance as it approached. As the train slowed, we took up the suitcases. It slowed to a stop with difficulty. He said, "Paka, do svidaniya, Doshinka." Goodbye and goodbye and goodbye, again like he really meant it. And then he said it one more time. Doors slid open, steps unfolded. My mother went first, and I began to climb into the darkness with her, suitcases in hand. And then he grabbed my arm clumsily. He held on for only a few seconds, only long enough to blurt out, "This might be the last time we see each other. Я тебя люблю." And then he let go. Everyone was pushing to get in behind me because the train only stops for 3 minutes in Baranovichi. So I was forced deep into the car and I could not turn back. I could not even throw him a look. So I dragged the luggage to our seats as fast as I could manage. I found my mother at the window waving desperately with one hand, the other covering her mouth as if to make sure no sound would escape her. I followed her gaze and found him standing outside apart from the crowd, apart from the families who were right up against the train, holding on to the fingertips of their relatives, hanging desperate for those last few seconds of physical contact. He was standing alone, out of our reach. My mother waved to him with increasing fervor. He waved back, but weakly, for a few seconds, dropped his hand and nodded his head. Then he looked at me and we just looked at each other for a moment. I shook my head. I knew that what he was trying to do, and I refused to give that moment the finality he forced upon it. Я не верю ни за что. And then suddenly it all seemed so strange and so sad, the accidental divulgence of his fear of dying alone in some no-name rural town against his vegetable patches. I began to grasp the reality of the situation, of his cancer, The train slowly jolted into movement. My grandfather yelled goodbye 2 times and waved. He took his cap off, wrung it in his 2 hands at his breast. He took 1 small step, hesitant, towards our window and then stopped. He did not walk with the train as it accelerated. He's dead, she says. It's 7:20. He never woke up this morning. And I know now it's no longer this morning in Russia, but it is tomorrow morning. And I wonder what they're doing right now. I wonder what I should do. I want to call and ask what tomorrow is like so that maybe I can better prepare myself for it. He'd been sick, so of course we should have expected this, waited for it, planned. He even fought to live 2 months past the prescribed date of expiration assigned to him by the doctors. I feel something strange inside myself, a small rebellion. I won't believe it. It can't be true. I know, because he said he would wait for me. He told me so himself. He had promised me. I called Russia just last week and I talked to him. He was not himself. His voice was meek and unfamiliar. I remember he started saying goodbyes, wishing me health for the future. Zdоровье, счастье, health and happiness, but I refused to accept his words, refused to take part in this artificial closure. I begged him to wait to die. Just wait, not yet, wait for me, I'm coming in November, and I bought the tickets, I'm coming to see you, to save you, so you have to wait to die, you have to fight. Нет, пожалуйста, подожди, fight it, wait for me, no goodbyes now. Если ты меня любишь, if you love me enough, you'll just wait for me, I'm coming for you, I promise you, and now you promise me. I kept saying it again and again, as if the promise would sustain his body, as if with each word we were somehow already forcing the distance between us to shrink, forcing the Atlantic to evaporate. He's dead, and how can that be? It's 7:20, and I don't understand this at all. I asked him to wait. He had nicknames for all of his 3 children. My mother, the eldest, was his little rooster, his Petushok. My uncle was Kotik, his kitten. My aunt, the youngest, was his rabbit, мой маленький зайчик. And then me, he always called me Doshinka, his daughter. He always said it was because he loved me just as much as I were his own child. What a strange thing to say. He promised me that he would fight. He's dead. And now all the men in this family are dead. I listen from Pittsburgh to my mother's cry somewhere in New Jersey about somewhere else, a place that is already in tomorrow. The time is 7:20 or maybe just after, and I say nothing. We are both silent now. My mother waits on the other side of the line, whimpering, expecting, and I am silent. He was her father, and more than anything, I want to just say something, say anything at all to her, because I know she needs me to. She's desperate for it, for consolation, for stability, for sanity, for anything at all. Yet I say nothing. I am high and I am afraid. My body slowly sinks into the bed. Time passes and I feel guilty, and still I say nothing. He's dead and the birds are outside.